Under the Bed. Under the Bed is a scary urban legend about a family who go on holiday and check into a cheap hotel, only to find a scary surprise. The family went on vacation together and checked into a suite at a cheap old hotel. They booked 2 double rooms, one for the husband and wife, and one for their children, a boy and a girl. When they got to their room, they both detected a bad odor. The husband called down to the front desk and asked to speak to the man. He explained that the room smelled very bad and they would like another suite. The manager apologized and told the man that they were all booked because of a convention, but he said he was going to send the maid up to their room to clean and to try and get rid of the odor. After lunch, the family went back to their rooms. When the kids walked into their room, they could both still smell the same odor. Again, their father called the front desk and told the manager that the room still smelled really bad. The manager told the man that there was nothing he could do, so the kids had to spend the night in the room. The girl and boy held their noses, trying not to breathe in the stink. Eventually, they got to sleep, and in the morning, their parents were knocking at the door to wake them up. When they opened the door, their father smelled the stink and decided he had to get to the bottom of what was causing this horrible smell. So he started searching the entire room for the source of the bad odor. He sniffed the towels, took down the curtains, and checked the carpet. The kids helped out too. Checking the bedclothes and the mattress, he pulled the top mattress off the bed. The young boy saw there was a big hole in the box spring base underneath. He looked down into the base of the bed and came face to face with a horrible sight. There, lying curled up inside the base, was the dead body of a woman. The boy realized that he had slept all night just a few inches away from a rotting corpse. Killer in the Backseat. Killer in the Backseat is a scary urban legend about a young woman who goes driving alone late at night and finds more than she bargained for. One night, a woman went out for drinks with her girlfriends. She left the bar fairly late at night and got into her car and onto the deserted highway. After a few miles, she noticed she was low on gas and pulled into a gas station. She was frightened by the odd behavior of the attendant, who kept trying to get her to leave the car and join him in the office. She refused and drove off as fast as she could. As she drove, she noticed a lone pair of headlights in her rear view mirror, approaching fast. As the car pulled up behind her, dangerously close to her tailgate, and the bright lights flashed. Now she was getting nervous. The car behind her kept flashing the lights off and on, and the driver seemed to be shouting and making signs with his hands. Through every stoplight and turn, it followed her until she reached home and pulled into her driveway. Terrified, she made a mad dash into her house and called the police. As she ran from the car, so did the driver of the car behind her, and he screamed, "Lock the door," and called the police, called 911. When the police arrived, the horrible truth was finally revealed to the woman. The man in the car had been trying to save her. As he pulled up behind her and his headlights illuminated her car, he saw the silhouette of a man with an axe rising up from the backseat behind her, so he flashed his brights to warn her. The police arrested the crazed killer in the backseat, who turned out to be an escaped mental patient. It was an extremely scary night, and the woman had a lucky escape. Buried Alive. Buried Alive is a creepy story about an old couple who lived together in a little house on the edge of town. They had been married for so long that they knew everything about each other. They knew each other so well that they even finished each other's sentences. One day, the old woman fell ill, and her husband spent every day by her bedside, trying to nurse her back to health. Unfortunately, the old woman passed away, and her husband was devastated by the loss. She was his one true love. Soon afterwards, a doctor arrived and pronounced her dead because it was the middle of the summer. They had a small funeral service and buried her the next day. The old man was so grief-stricken that as his wife's coffin was being lowered into the grave, he tried to jump in after her. The people at the funeral had to hold him back until the grave was filled in. Lonely and miserable, the old man returned to his empty house. That night, he was awakened by a strange scratching sound. It grew louder and louder, but he couldn't figure out where it was coming from. When he turned over in bed, he was met with a terrifying sight. He saw a figure of a woman standing outside his bedroom window. With horror, he realized it was his wife. Her eyes were sunken and hollow. Her mouth was open wide in a silent scream, and her fingers were clawing at the window pane. When he ran to the window and opened it, the figure vanished into thin air. He phoned the doctor immediately and begged to have his wife's body exhumed from the grave. The doctor refused to allow the coffin to be dug up, telling the old man that he was just suffering from stress after his wife's death. But the old man continued to see the same ghostly apparition outside his window every night. Finally, the old man couldn't stand it anymore. Got out of bed, got dressed, grabbed a shovel, and headed for the graveyard. He came to his wife's grave and began digging and digging. When he eventually unearthed his wife's coffin and pried open the lid, he recoiled in horror. His wife's mouth was wide open, frozen in a silent scream. There were scratch marks all over the inside of the coffin lid, and her fingers were worn down to the bone. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. We will greatly appreciate it. Thank you.